So this week's Parsha is going to be the first Parsha of the third book of 5 books of Moses, VaYikra. And this is going to be a very interesting Parsha. First off, what we did up until now was Sefer Bereshit. We did Zera Shimshon, we ended it off with. Sefer Shemot, we ended off with the Baal Turim and Zera Shimshon. This Sefer, we're going to change it up a little bit, being that it's speaking about Karbanot, how to give it, the halachot, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of like for lack of better terms, neglected by many because, it's not applicable to me. Why do I have to learn it? It's boring, this and that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to apply 1 or 2 mitzvot to today's generation. And before we get to that, I want to say a nice little short Divar Toida of
let people
first.
know that there's nobody here.
Oh yeah, for the people who are listening in, there's nobody here. We're doing this through WhatsApp video call with my 3 great friends. All right, Nathan, you unmuting yourself?
I was just about to say, everybody unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Yeah.
the lucky 3. Go ahead, guys.
All right, introduce yourselves to the world.
What?
You want to introduce yourselves to the world?
You already made the introduction for me. You already said, Nathan, you're about to unmute yourself. You already
All
put
right,
my spot.
so we
you
have-
gotta make room for the other people.
We have
Yeah,
Nathan
guys.
here. We have Amir Iransky, and we have Yaakov Israeli. Good? We good? Let's begin. So, all right. We're going to start with Sefer HaChinuch brings down a mitzvah from the 613 mitzvot. Mitzvah number 127. This is in VaYikra Perek Hey, Pasuk Tes Vav and Tes Zayin. It's the mitzvah is the person who ate holy food must pay back its value plus 1/5 extra. So holy foods mean like foods of terumah, foods that's meant to go to the Beit HaMikdash only and nobody else can eat it, and that's the holy foods. So the Torah is saying, come here, say hello to everybody. Say hello to everybody, say hello. So the Torah is saying that if a person by accident eats food that's belonging to the Beit HaMikdash or eats food that's belonging to the Kohen, I'm not sure about the Kohen, but definitely to the Beit HaMikdash, anything that's considered holy, the penalty for that is that the person who ate it has to pay back whatever he ate. He has to pay back whatever he ate plus its value plus another 1/5. That means, let's say a person ate a whole cow that belongs to the Beit HaMikdash. He ate the cow. So the person has to pay back the cow that he ate, pay back the value of the cow, which is maybe, let's say, I don't know, for argument's sake, $100, plus an extra 1/5 atop of the $100. And Sefer HaMitzvot, Mitzvot HaMelech, says, why does he have to pay back 1/5? It's because, just in case people kind of like, how do I say this? Negate the actual value of what they ate. They'll say, nah, it's not really worth $100. It's worth maybe $90. So, in order for them to negate the value of what they ate, the Torah adds an extra 1/5. So, do we all understand what's going on here? You just nod yes or no. You understand? Yeah? Alright. So that's why, the Torah is saying that whoever eats food that belongs to the Beit HaMikdash has to pay back the food they ate, the value of the food, and 1/5 extra. So now, so why this kind of penalty? It's because... Yes.
So, you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. So, wait, I think I missed it for a second. The people that eat from Beit HaMikdash without permission or just in general?
By accident. Like they say, so how they do it is like this. There's like 100 cows, right? And they point to a specific one and say, this is going to be the one that's going to the Beit HaMikdash. But why? For it could be a sacrifice. It could be a repentance. It could be just a voluntary, just a gift. But they designated this specific cow to go to the Beit HaMikdash. They all went crazy. They got wild. They got mixed into the crowd, and the one that he was supposed to eat was the one that belonged to the Beit HaMikdash. So they accidentally ate that one, and then they figured out after, oh man, I ate the one that belongs to the Beit HaMikdash. So the penalty is that because he ate the whole cow, he pays back what he actually ate, the cow, plus the value of the cow, which for argument's sake we said $100, plus an extra 1/5.
Plus 1/5.
Yeah. What if he did it on purpose? Is it the same punishment or worse?
There's its own penalty for that if he did it on purpose. We're saying it for unintentional. He did it. So moving on. So now, so the Sefer Mitzvahs HaMelech goes on and says that how come the punishment is so severe? It's because people, when let's say I stole a cow from you, my punishment there is that I have to pay you back double. And why do I have to pay you back double? It's because of the animal and plus the worth of the animal. But that's because you, as a person who I stole from, can take me to court physically, right? But if I'm stealing from Hashem, he can't take me to court, right? He's not going to now physically place me into a courthouse. So I'm not going to be afraid of the consequences of what's going to happen. People always, you hear people all the time saying, whatever, I'll deal with it when I get up there, right? We hear it all the time, right? So that makes the punishment a little less neglected on my end. So that's why the Torah added on double plus 1/5. So now we're going a little bit further. That's why a person should be a little bit more careful when they're in the yeshiva, for example, carving on the desk of the yeshiva. It's considered stealing, but who does he pay back to? The Rosh Yeshiva? The Rosh Yeshiva most probably does not own the yeshiva, right? And so who does he pay back if he carved out like his name on the desk of the yeshiva? So that's why the Torah in that case would give that if anybody eats from the Beit HaMikdash food, he would have to pay back double plus 1/5 to make the penalty seem a little bit more harsh.
So who would he pay back?
Who would he pay back, you ask? I'm sure in that case he will just have to give another desk as a replacement to the one he ruined. Or fix it, in my opinion. So now moving on. Is I asked this question to the person who I was learning with. We have a case where if somebody steals an ox or a sheep, they pay back, if it's a ox, 5 times the amount of the ox, or if it's a sheep, they pay back 4 times the amount. Do you guys have heard of that concept before? Nathan, what's up? You look confused.
No. What was it? You said if somebody steals an ox, they have to pay 5 times. If they steal a sheep, they have to pay 4 times?
Yeah. So if the ox is worth $100, they have to pay back $500. And with the sheep, if the sheep is worth $100, they pay back $400. In oppose of the traditional 2 times they pay back. Why do they pay back 5 times or 4 times?
To the person or to the Beis HaMikdash?
To the person. If a person steals from another person an ox or a sheep, they pay back the person 5 times or 4 times. This person, in order for him to pay back 5 times or 4 times, this person, he, as a ganav, as a robber, has to either slaughter it or sell it or resell it. Once a person slaughters it or resells it, then he's liable to pay back 5 or 4 times.
Otherwise, he could just give it back?
Otherwise, he just gives it back.
But if he doesn't, all he does is give it back and he's good.
Then he's good, yeah. So now the question, why 5 times, why 4 times? Is because if somebody steals an ox from a farmer, he not only steals the ox, he steals the tasks of what the ox does for his farm. Now he's lost that because the ox does a lot for a farmer. Wow. So if a person steals an ox, now he's lost on a whole day's work probably. So to compensate the work, to compensate what the ox does, the importance, he pays back 5 times. How come a sheep is 4 times? The sheep does just as much as amount of work as the ox does, except the difference is the sheep is being carried on the thief's back and taking it home. So because the thief went through a certain embarrassment of having to steal this sheep, because the Ganav, the robber, went through some sort of embarrassment of having to steal this sheep, Hashem had a little mercy on him and said, you know what? Pay 4 times because you already been embarrassed, and that was some sort of payment that you did.
Well, what does a sheep do in the farm? Just gives wool.
Wool,
Cotton.
food,
Yeah,
cotton.
that was going to be for my first question. What is the sheep doesn't contribute nearly as much as the ox does? That's first.
But the sheep is essential to an ox. Like, ox is essential to what it does. Sheep are essential to what they do in terms of food, in terms of
Milk.
whatever. I don't know. I'm not a farmer.
Whatever the case is, okay, no problem. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that why is the guy, the thief, carrying the sheep? Does he not notice that it has 4 legs, that it's able to walk on itself?
Sheep in specific, sheep are kind of stubborn. The way they move around is by usually, if you've seen it in movies, I'm not a farmer, so that's the only way I know about farms, is that they have a dog, like a pit bull, not pit bull, a German Shepherd type dog to run around, bark at them, and they get scared and start following because of the noise that the dog makes. Otherwise, they're not going to move. But ox, like you said, ox, you can take them by the reins and pull them, and they're going to move. Right? So it's simple to do it. But for a sheep, they would...
It's quite simple to pull an ox, bro. An ox is like 500 pounds, right? He's not moving him if he doesn't want to move.
And all you got to do is just move its reins, and it's going to follow you. That's how...
A sheep is not like that. If you drag it by a leash, bro, he's not going nowhere.
They're going to go because, you're stronger than the sheep, but they're very stubborn. And for a robber...
They're lazy. They'll stop a million times.
Time is of the essence. Okay.
Right, time is of the essence. So what the robber's going to do is just take it real quick, put it on the shoulders, and run. And that's embarrassing for a robber to do. So because he went through a certain embarrassment, Hashem had mercy on him and said, you know what, pay 4 times because I know you were embarrassed when you did it. So, okay, now let's rewind back to what we're saying. I told you that the Torah said that a person who eats from the Beit HaMikdash pays back twice, plus an extra 1/5. But when it comes to an ox or a sheep from one person to another person, he doesn't pay back twice or 1/5. He pays back 4 times or 5 times. So the question here is, how come a person is liable to pay back 4 times and 5 times much more than if they stole from the Beit HaMikdash?
Answers.
Should I repeat the question?
No, I got the question. My answer to that would be is that a person is a lot less likely to steal from the Beit HaMikdash because of the fear, because of Yirat Shamayim. Whatever, he's a thief, and whatever situation he has to be in that he feels that he has to steal from the Beit HaMikdash, and he goes ahead and he does it. But at the end of the day, nobody's getting affected, so to speak.
Exactly why you just said it yourself. No one's getting affected. Therefore, the person would steal because nobody is physically taking him to a court to pay back. So there'll be less afraid.
Not even the fact of there's no one to take him to court. There was no loss other than
who?
Subject or the animal itself.
Right, the only animal lost out, but Hashem didn't lose out. He doesn't need that animal, right? So if somebody can go ahead and... It's like making a bracha. So you don't make a bracha on a certain food that you eat, right? You stole from Hashem. But is people really afraid of stealing from Hashem? It's not really the biggest deal in the world for people, unfortunately, to steal from Hashem, because there's no physical consequence that happens.
What do you mean? In the setting of stealing from the Beit HaMikdash, of course there's a fear, because you're stealing from an actual place. When you're talking about food, there's no I'm not taking something that doesn't belong to me. There's no setting. That's not the setting. The setting of going to the Beit HaMikdash and actually stealing a cow, stealing a sheep, stealing an ox, is you're actually going out to actually steal, to do the act of stealing.
To another person. You're stealing from another person, and this other person has the right to take you to court.
No, I'm talking about from the Beit HaMikdash right now.
But that's the ox and sheep. But Sefer Mitzvah Samelech says because you're stealing from Hashem, He's not going to take you to court. So people naturally may say, "It's no big deal if I steal from the sheep, from Hashem." That's what Sefer Mitzvahs HaMelech says.
Okay.
All right.
I heard that.
Like, I'm not scared. I'm gonna take this cow that belongs to the Beit HaMikdash. I'm gonna eat it. No one's gonna know. And that's it. I'm okay. You know what? I stole from the Beit HaMikdash. Here, take it back. And you're never gonna know about it. But in the case of a sheep or an ox, the other owner who owns that sheep and ox, will say, "You stole my sheep and ox, and now you owe me 4 or 5 times." So the question that I'm gonna say again, the question that I said before is, how come when it comes to another person, I have to pay back 4 or 5 times, but with the actual Beit HaMikdash, I only pay a fifth? If the Beit HaMikdash really wanted me to be afraid, Hashem would have said, if you eat the Beit HaMikdash, you pay back 10 times. And now I'd be really afraid. I can't even afford 10 times. However, when it comes to another person, 4 or 5 times will hopefully make me think about it. You know what? If I get caught, I can't really afford to pay back 4 or 5 times. So me and my chavrusa was going back and forth on trying to figure out the answer on how come Hashem charges more when it comes to another person. And then and we came to a situation where, you know what? It is what it is. I come home that night, I tell my wife what I learned, and she just gave me the most brilliant answer. And she tells me, it's because Hashem cares about the other person's feelings more than himself. And how do we prove that? Because
wasn't my only answer.
let's get this one first.
Okay.
So how do we prove that? It's because when Avraham was talking to Hashem in Parshat VaYikra, if you remember, Avraham was talking to Hashem. Suddenly, 3 men, Bedouin-looking men, walk in a distance, and Avraham himself says, "Hashem, stop! I have to go take care of the guests." And he stopped the meeting and went to take care of the guests. And he wasn't frowned upon for doing that. And actually, it was Hashem who said, it's okay, you can go take care of the guests. So that's how we see that Hashem cares about his, the feelings of another human being rather than himself. What was the other one?
That the other person is working much harder for the animal,
Right.
raising it and stuff
Right.
like that, and they need it more than Hashem needs an animal.
Exactly. So Hashem is looking at the efforts of a person who's lost out on an ox or lost out on a sheep more than himself, who has lost out on a cow or on a sacrifice, which is no big deal to Hashem. So that's how we can see that pasuk is applicable to today's time. Not the actual paying back 1/5 to the Beit HaMikdash, but the concept of how Hashem cares about us humans more than himself. He puts us before him. That's the amount of love that he has for us in opposed of himself. So moving on to, not moving on, but rewinding to the first pasuk of this week's parsha is the first couple of words, VaYikra el Moshe, and Hashem called out to Moshe. And we see something very interesting, that VaYikra el Moshe, when the letter Aleph in the word VaYikra is smaller than the rest of the text of the letters. You won't see that. You probably will see that in the Chumash, but it's more seen on the Torah scroll, the Sefer Torah. So I'm getting my information from the book called A Deeper Dimension. Very interesting facts about each parsha by Rabbi Judah Gross. Yeah, Amir, I know you like these books, so take a look. If you want, you can screenshot it.
I would love to have a link.
Yeah, all right. I'll send you the link to this book. All right, so it was a great find on my end. I really love what he says. He says very interesting stuff, and this is going to be something very, everybody kind of knows what I'm about to say, but here it is. So why is the Aleph smaller than everything else? It's because the Chassam Sofer explains that at Har Sinai, this was 2 weeks ago. A few weeks ago, the Jews got a huge revelation, receiving the Torah from Har Sinai, and they were at their top level of prophecy, all the Jewish people as one, as a whole, and it was great. It was a great revelation. Shortly after, when Moshe was gone, they had the sin of the golden calf, the Egel Hazav, and once they had that golden calf, the Avera, the sin of the golden calf, they diminished the level of prophecy that they had from Har Sinai. So this was tragic. Till today, any tragedy the nation goes through, there's a hint of the reasoning because of the Egel HaZahav. So we're saying that we're going through the coronavirus as a whole right now, and maybe it could be a hint, a small portion of it is because of the Egel HaZahav. Any tragedy that we have from that day forward till today, the Chachamim tell us it's because of the Egel HaZahav. And a couple of Parshiot after, Hashem calls out to Moshe, and his VaYikra, and the word VaYikra denotes like a call of love, and he calls of love to Moshe, but Moshe was being humble about it and said that how can you love me dearly, and how can you love me dearly, and the Jewish people just went down the decline of what they went through, the prophecy. So instead of what he did was he wrote VaYikar, it was Vav Yud Kuf Resh Aleph. So he wrote VaYikar with a small aleph. VaYikar means coincidentally, like he happened across Aleph. And Aleph is a representation of Hashem's name, because Aleph is Gematria number 1, which is a representation of Hashem's oneness. So VaYikar Aleph, he says, I happened to come across Hashem who has spoken to me. And he was being very humble about it. So we learn from this that the small aleph denotes the fact that Moshe was being very humble at the fact that Hashem was just speaking to him, and not that Hashem came across to speak to him, and not directly speaking to him. So he had some sort of like empathy to the other Jewish people who has lost that prophecy because of this sin. Also, it says over here, very interesting enough, that the children, VaYikra Rabbah says that the children, when they first learn the Torah, they zoom in to learn this Sefer VaYikra. That means they skip Sefer Bereshit, they skip Sefer Shemot, and they run into Sefer VaYikra. Why? It's because he says here, because the Beit HaMikdash is pure, the Karbanot is pure, and the pure children should first learn pure things. Today in Yeshivot we have that everybody learns Bereshit first, but I'm guessing back in the day they learned the Karbanot first, which makes sense because the Beit HaMikdash, they have to learn how to do it. And they say also that when the children is going to read the words VaYikra El Moshe, and they will see that the Aleph is small, the first thing that's going to hit their heads, how come the Aleph is small? And that's when the Rabbi or the Mora is going to teach them that you have to be humble when learning the Torah. And that is the fundamental rule of learning Torah. To first be humble. Once a person is humble, that's when the holiness of the Torah can be confined within him. Alright? So now we're going to quickly move on to the Zera Shimshon. And the Zera Shimshon says, on this pasuk, actually, VaYikra El Moshe, VaYdaber Hashem Elav Me'ohel Moed Lemor. Hashem, he called to Moshe, and Hashem spoke to him from the tent of the meeting, and he was saying. So the Zera Shimshon is saying, how come Moshe Rabbeinu was waiting for Hashem to call him to the Ohel Moed, to the tent of meeting? And Zera Shimshon here was saying that it's because Moshe he waited for Hashem to call him in order for him to speak to Hashem. Well, we know what kind of prophecy did Moshe have. That he was the highest prophecy, able to speak to Hashem face to face, in opposed of everybody else who had to speak to Hashem via music or via a dream. Moshe speaks to Hashem like a friend, like you and I speak to each other, like a friend. So how come he waited for Hashem to first invite him to speak to him? Zera Shimshon is answering that Moshe was such a humble person that he didn't even think that because I am such a big prophet, I can speak to Hashem whenever I want. He actually was waiting for Hashem to call him, and then that's when I'm going to speak to Hashem. To teach us that a person, though he may be a big Talmid Chacham, though he may be a big Tzaddik, he should not use that merit to assume that Hashem, quote unquote, owes me something. He should still go out and daven and pray and wait to be calling to speak to Hashem. We have our way to be calling is, time for Shachrit, time for Mincha, time for Arvit, and then that's when we should, even the Talmid Chachamim, even the big Tzaddikim have to ask for help. I need this, I need more, I need, Parnasah, I need Refuah Shlema. They also have to beseech these things to Hashem, and they shouldn't be relying on their knowledge of Torah and the performances of mitzvot that they have done in the past. Before I end this shiur, I just want to say a very big announcement. Nathan, you're going to love this a lot because I know you've been waiting for this one. If you remember, guys, I've been subtly giving a little hints and messages on a certain project that I have been working on. Basically, today I completed this project, and I purposely wanted to complete this project today because I knew I was going to speak to you guys, and because I am going to be teaching about the letter Aleph of VaYikra. So what's this project? If you guys remember, I went ahead to write down meanings of each Hebrew letter, and its purpose on what kind of power it gives to personalities. So let's say we'll take Natan. You have a nun, tough nun. So in this project that I finished with Hashem's help, is that I spoke about the nun and how it affects people who carried the letter nun. I spoke about the letter tet and how it affects the people who carried the letter tet. And this way, by reading what I wrote from sources, obviously, all sourced, you can understand yourself in a more of a different way. Being that you have the letter nun in your name is because you harness the power of the letter nun. So same with Amir, same with Yaakov, and all the 22 letters, plus the Nekudot, plus the Sofit, the end letters, like the Paysach, Tadik Sofit. So I finished it today. Hopefully after this class you guys are going to submit to me your Hebrew names with the correct pronunciation, the Nekudot, and I'm going to send you back what I wrote about each letter, and hopefully you're going to see how it's going to kind of like guide you, your personalities based according to the letters of your Hebrew name. So
I have a question.
I knew it. Go.
Is this something like proprietary project that you did that you're looking to publish, or this is something that you want to make public and you want to put it out there in the world?
Yeah, it's public. Anybody can do it. But the listeners out there in the world can submit their names to me, and I'm gonna send it back, whatever they need to know. Of course, Torah is Torah. Everybody should know what it is. And these sources that I've written down, they're books that are written in English, so it's open to anybody. However, the difference, what I did is that the books that I've read was giving a generic form of these letters, but what I was doing is I was taking the specific parts of when these letters affect personalities, and then I composed all of that and made it into one, like a article type thing. So
why don't we scan it, make it into a PDF, and you could broadcast it?
It is in a PDF.
Oh, okay.
It's in a PDF. I'm going to email it to you via email or WhatsApp, or copy and paste your text messages, however you want. I have it all on my Google Docs. And so you're going to give me like Natan with a Nekudot, because the Nekudot also make an effect to who you are.
So I gotta find out what the Nekudot of my name is, because I have no idea.
I'll find it out for you. It's in the Chumash. It's not a problem.
But that's the situation.
But here, I'll give you real quick on what I wrote about your name, Natan. Natan is a palindrome. Palindrome means that you can read it from right to left and left to right.
Right. No. But my people call me Natan.
But it's Natanel, right?
Natanel, yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if that makes a difference, how that influences the...
It does, because you have an L over there.
Right. No, I'm saying I don't know if it influences how people address me, or how what my name actually is? Because I heard that there's a difference.
Well,
depending on how people.
I think it's by how you're addressed.
No,
I think it's by how you.
how it's official. Your official name is what you've been given at your brit milah.
But it's also what you.
I'll do both. I don't mind.
call
Believe
you,
me.
like,
That's only two.
about.
So, like, let's say I cannot right now say Joshua and the meaning of the letter Gimel, Vav, Shin, Ayin because it's Joshua, because it's just a nickname. But Yehoshua is what my name is given to me birthright. But sometimes people have double names. That's also included. Middle names also included.
Yeah, I also have a middle name. Nathaniel Nisan.
Nathaniel Nisan. Wow, you have a whole new name, man. Wow.
Talk about.
All right. So what I was saying about Natan, and all the Natans out there are getting a freebie right now. So Natan is a palindrome, meaning you can read it from right to left and left to right. Natan is the word give. So it means to give. So it teaches us a lesson that if a person gives, he's really getting back.
Oh, I like that.
From right to left and left to right, you see? So,
I like it.
so a person whose name is Natan will now think, wait, so if my name is a palindrome, that means the power of giving is more kind of emphasized in my personality. So it's kind of like messages that we all know already, but these are emphasis on our names. So Amir, you have the letter Aleph in your name. So Aleph is a name that it denotes Hashem's oneness. And Aleph could also be read as Elef, which means 1,000. So how can oneness be also read as Elef, 1,000? Because it's really Elef, it means 1,000. It's 1,000 different types of natural forces that all link up back to one Hashem. That is called a monogamy. What we do, we don't believe in. We're not a polytheistic nation. We're a monogamistic nation. We believe in one. The religions around us believe that every force has their own God. We know that every force links up to one God. Obviously, you know that. But it's emphasis to the letter of your name. And Yaakov, you have a Yud over there. Yud is because it's such a small letter, Yud denotes a trait of humility. Because it's so small. And it can be cut up to any other, like Aleph could be cut up to different letters, Nun could be cut up to different components, but a Yud cannot be cut up, just like Hashem cannot be cut up. He's only one, and since therefore denotes humility plus Hashem. Like I said before, if one wants to confine Hashem into his own life, he has to be humble. You know that already. But because you carry the letter Yud in your name, it's more emphasized to your personality. So,
what about the second name, Chai?
Chai, Chet, right?
Chai is Chet, yeah.
So Chet,
Yaakov Chai, yeah.
Yaakov Chai. So Chet denotes a chuppah. So yeah. Yeah, basically, if you see the shape of the Chet, it's two Zayins. Zayin, the letter Zayin is shaped of a Zayin is two spears of war, and it's under a chuppah. It shows us what? That a married couple could be in war with each other, but if they properly have the correct shalom bayis and have the correct holiness towards each other, they can either make it into a chaim life, or they can live a life of chet, sin.
Should I change my name to Chaim?
No, chai is perfect. That was actually a ruach hakodesh that your parents received to call you chai. So chai is perfect, but the letter chet denotes that it could be a chaim, it could be a chuppah, or it could be either chet or it can be chaim. And it's your choice with your kala, B'ezrat Hashem, to choose how we're going to do it. Okay, so you know that already, but it's more emphasized to you because you carry that letter. That power is in your name.
So does it works with the initial, or it works with the whole name? You gotta like.
It works
go
with
through all the letters in the name.
I go through all of your letters in your names, one letter at a time, one nikuda at a time, And like this, you get creative on how it can apply to your personal lives and your personality. And you'll know.
Not like this.
And you'll know, okay, so I had the letter Nun in my name. So now I know. So when it comes to these kind of situations, Hashem is expecting a little bit more from me to do whatever Nun stands for, or whatever Aleph stands for, or whatever Yud stands for. Because Hashem gave your parents Ruach HaKodesh before naming you guys. So there's a reason why you have these names.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm sending you my email right now, bro.
Yeah, so send me your Hebrew names. And anybody listening on the recording, send me your Hebrew names. And I'm going to send you guys back the meaning of all your Hebrew letters. And B'ezrat Hashem, you guys are going to reach your highest potentials to what you guys were given to do.
Amen.
Chazak Baruch. My email address is alephbetmeaning@gmail.com. That's ALEF as in Frank, BET as in Tom, meaning@gmail.com.